Feeling real blessed right now. Feeling real blessed right now. Feeling real blessed right now. Dropped it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Flipside. My name is Melanie. They're laughing at me. This is Nigel. Nigel, legend. He has all the names. They're really the same name, but all the names. Yeah. He's trying to take a breather. You can take a breather.
It's a little hotter under the long sleeve coat than I planned this morning when I left home.
Hey, so you know the flip side is meant for a place for people to ask questions, engage with the message after the message has been given, and just to spend time together with the people online. So we're going to dive in. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first question.
Okay.
Don't get nervous.
Too late.
All right. So if I haven't seen a sign, my faith isn't real.
Hey, there's a fan. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
Praise.
There's a sign. God answered unprayed prayers.
Wait, isn't the sweat the sign? Anyway.
Maybe.
Okay,
I don't
question.
know. If I haven't seen the sign, is my faith real?
Yeah.
No. I think I don't think you have to have a sign. I think that you get the opportunity. I think God is good enough to give us signs. He doesn't have to. I think that the biggest sign he gave was the cross. So I would spend more time finding out, can I trust this resurrection story more so than I would, hey, God, could you do this miracle in front of me? Now, I believe God does miracles. I've seen him heal people, all that type of stuff. Yeah. But it doesn't happen all the time. I prayed for people to get healed, and it didn't happen. So is God not real then?
Right.
No, my faith is in the person of Christ and what he's doing in my life. So sometimes I feel bad sharing the story because, like, I don't want anybody to feel like, well, that didn't happen to me, so God, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I've had people say that to me before, but I'm just like, I don't think that's God's point of the sign.
Sure.
I think the point of the sign is to point to the Christ. So if you get to the Christ without the sign, you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
So
I also think, like, sometimes it's paying attention. It's like what our posture is to pay attention.
True.
Because I think signs oftentimes happen when we least expect it, or we're not paying attention, or what have you. So
I agree with you on that.
yeah. So sometimes it's like where we are in life, where we are in our faith journey, where we are with our relationship with Jesus. That depends on. And I think there's so many people that out there that they want a sign. They desperately want to hear something or see something or experience something, and they might be in a season of quiet. With God, and that's frustrating. So
it can be, for sure. I think you got to be open-handed, because if you're only looking for God to do things the way you expect it to happen, and he does something different,
right,
like you said, you miss it. But even in another point, man, like, I think when signs are the only thing we look for in faith, Jesus actually warns people. He's like, hey, people are coming up at him, and he said at the end of days, this is the scariest passage in the Bible to me, so I don't know if this will kill the vibe, but he says, hey, man, we did signs in your name, we did miracles, we did all this stuff in your name. And Jesus says, depart from me, I never knew you. Because more important than, he never said the signs they did weren't real. Yeah. So that's all types of implications. But the word no there is gnosko. It says, I don't have a relationship with you. So if you see no signs, but you have a relationship with Jesus through faith, like the Bible outlines, that's more important infinitely than anything else. So I think faith is real if we have that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Great story, though. I mean, I love everyone's seeking out for that moment, right? Because you just feel a connection. So, all right, we'll go on to question 2. We could probably live on that question for a while, but question 2, is it acceptable to, quote, lay out a fleece before God in prayer? And let's start by, what does this question mean by lay out a fleece?
Yeah, so it's a reference to Gideon in the book of Judges. He was a military leader who kind of seemed strong at some points and weak in others, and God calls him to do something crazy, and he's like, hey, I need you to prove to me that this is you. So he lays out this fleece, and he says, hey, man, if it's wet when I wake up and the ground is dry, I'll do it, and that happens. Okay. And then he says, hey, let me do it, and then he said, do it one more time. If this is dry and the ground is wet, then I'll do it, and he does that. So that's laying out a fleece. It's kind of like God prove it, right? Okay. So I think, like I said, I think God meets people where they are. Yeah. So there's some folks who need God prove it, send me the person to answer the prayer, and I think God does that many times. I don't know how the dice rolls on that, but I don't think he has to. And I think he's gracious to do it because he wants to show himself. Like Thomas is like, hey, Jesus is like, hey, don't even ask me. Like, look at the holes. I know what you're asking. Like, it's me. So Jesus spends time showing signs, answering stuff when he doesn't have to. So I think my grandma was telling me to do that, not to test God. But as I read scripture, I find out that it's not a problem to ask God politely and in reverence. So.
Yeah, it's good. We got question 3. How do I know when a sign is really from God and not just something I want to be a sign?
That's a great question. So what I've learned is feelings aren't facts, right? Feelings are good, I don't think there's any, God has feelings. But if I want to see a certain thing a certain way, I need to make sure that what I'm asking God for is lining up with the word, because God is never going to do anything outside of his word. When Jesus was tempted, all he did was say, the word says, the word says, the word says. So I think we have to look at the word first, and then ask people who are further in their faith journey or God's put in our life to give us like mentorship and guidance, and ask them for wisdom. Hey, I think God is saying this. I think this is where I want to go. Can you give me wisdom from the word? And can you pray with me? And just give time and because Proverbs says in the multitude of many, there's wisdom. So you ask many. Yeah.
That's good. And, we were talking about this a little bit earlier today, and one of my first interactions with you was sitting in a seat down at our Lynn Haven campus. And Nigel, you gave a message, and in that moment, I didn't know it was something I needed to hear, but it drove me to tears because something was stirring in me, and it was something about finding your purpose and your place, and don't miss it if God is calling you to do something. And at that time, I was really wrestling with where I was professionally, and it prompted a huge stirring in my life to the point where I changed careers. And that wasn't the reason, right? It was just, it started that internal anxiety in me, or that thinking and that praying and that, God, what do you have for me? So maybe not a sign, but certainly something that was speaking to me.
Wow.
So
First off, I'm honored, right?
Yeah.
I love hearing that story. But to your point, it was nothing like ridiculously miraculous.
Right.
The sky didn't crack, right?
Right.
But it was one of probably many things that were pointing you in a particular direction.
Right.
And I just think, God allows us to be that for somebody on their journey, and God allows people to be that for us. So you just got to pay attention.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like a moment that probably didn't mean much to you, it's something I remember all the time.
That's crazy.
That message, which is crazy, right? How he works. And then it's paying attention to how does that align with the other things that you are feeling or that you're hearing and that you feel God moving you towards, right? And then your willingness to just surrender and go, I don't know what it is, but
to what you just said, it wasn't, I'm on stage and I don't even remember saying this.
No,
Right? But even with my story, what DJ Noble did for me, if you watch the sermon, he called me, I remember that for the rest of my life.
Right.
I had to call him and remind him,
right.
Bro, you called me. He's like, what'd I say?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? He's like, oh yeah, I remember that. What did that mean? He went on about his day, went to the grocery store, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But that changed my life. Yeah. And so that's just that's how it goes.
So maybe to this person's thought too of I want it to be a sign is just, again, paying attention, being present, and just not thinking that anything too small is too small. It might be something big. So, all right, question number 4, Quattro. What is your favorite? We're going to change directions. What is your favorite attribute of God?
It's hard. I think if this answer counts, I think I'd say his grace. I heard a sermon one time. Somebody said, "What's the hardest doctrine of God for you?" And the pastor said, "God's grace." And it was kind of like this, because it's so mind-blowingly good and beyond our realm to receive it. The more we understand how much God didn't have to do for us, and that he did anyway, and that the love and justice of God is so interwoven, you can't separate them. I think just understanding that that's not just a part of some God out there that I choose to worship. That's the part of the God of all reality. That's who he is. That's what existence is, because it's who he is. So I think seeing that that's the grace, and grace being unmerited favor. He gives you what you don't deserve, and while still being good and just at the same. It's crazy. I think that's my favorite, because I struggle with giving myself grace. Yeah. When God has been very gracious to me. Yeah. And I struggle with giving other people grace if they do certain things to trigger me. And I'm trying to learn to be more like what God gave me, I want to give away. So.
Yeah. Mine's all wrapped in that too. I would say I came back to faith later as an adult. It was my choice. And it was just amazing to me that I could look back and see signs of God patiently waiting for me, and then also seeking me, and just being patient and giving me grace when the time was right, when I was ready. And I so did not deserve it. So, yeah, that's good. All right, here we go. We're going to land on this question. How do you meet people where they are when they've made you angry and you can't find the heart to meet them?
Yeah, I think if somebody's made you angry or offended you, it's possible to forgive and let the offense go, let the debt go, and not have to meet them if it's an unhealthy situation. I think if you can, you should do it. And if it's just uncomfortable, you should find a good time to push past discomfort and do it. But if it's not healthy or toxic or it's triggering or it's taking somewhere
Sure.
I don't think you have to meet with them to forgive them and be there with them. I'm taking this to forgiveness because they made you angry. So forgive and let the debt go. Forgiveness is, hey, if you don't say I'm sorry, you don't make it right, I let the debt go. And you don't have to apologize. I can do that without your help. Trust is us taking time to earn the place to get back to where we were. And reconciliation is both parties working on getting back. So I don't need you to forgive you. It would be great to have you there. But you know what I mean? So if it's not healthy, I recommend you keep your distance and use wisdom.
Yeah, it's good. And even I used to find that writing words down was very helpful. I would get caught up with somebody like face to face and like couldn't like, but writing for me was my freedom of putting things on paper.
Like journaling,
like writing somebody a letter directly.
Oh, and
like
just saying, hey, read this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I have things in my heart I want to say. Yeah. I can't say it in person for whatever reason. Right. But if I write it down and get it down, I can give that to you. And
that's wisdom. That's a really good.
Could be a conversation starter at least, right?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
Sure. And be like, hey, I'm not ready to meet and talk about this yet, but I just need you to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Hey, you guys, thank you for being here, Nigel.
Thanks for having me, man.
Love spending time with you on a Sunday. I saw Tia downstairs.
Yeah, man, she's here.
It was good to see her. You guys, thanks for joining us on the flip side. If you've got more questions, we have more answers, and we'll get them to you somehow. But until next Sunday, we're going to be back on the flip side, and you know what? Feeling real blessed right now. Feeling real blessed right now. Feeling real blessed right now. 2 up, 2 down, something. Bye, you guys.
Something.